This is lesson 18-4, volume with fractional edge lengths. Our essential question, how can you determine the volume of a rectangular prism with fractional edge lengths? So basically it's the same thing we did in the last lesson, but this time we're just dealing with fractions. There's no vocab for this lesson. Example 1, find the volume. It's the same exact thing we were doing. Volume is always length times width times height. So we're multiplying 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5. So what I think is easiest is just to change these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So remember, you multiply whole number times denominator, so 1 times 2 is 2, and you add the numerator. Plus 1 is 3, and the denominator stays the same. So since they're all three the same number, they're all going to become 3/2. Now when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. So 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27, and 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So we get 27/8, but let's change it back to a mixed number. Remember, to change it back to a mixed number, you just divide it. Your numerator always goes inside. So 27 divided by 8 goes in 3 times, which is 24. So we have 3 left over. And now we can just make this into our mixed number. So we have 3 as the whole number, 3 as the numerator, and 8 as the denominator. So here's our whole answer. 3 3/8. Let's not forget about our units, so I'm going to have to write it where I have a little more space. So 3 3/8 inches cubed is our full answer with units. So really you're just thinking about all those things we learned about fractions, mixed numbers, multiplying, changing them, and you're still just multiplying length times width times height. So example 2, we're doing exactly like what we did in the previous lesson, and we're going backwards again. So we already have the volume this time, 9 3/8. And this time they gave us the base and the height. But it's still the same idea. So since we already have the answer, we take the answer, 9 3/8, and we divide so we can get the other piece. We divide by 6 1/4. Let's change these both to improper. So we have 9 times 8, which is 72, plus 3 is 75, and the denominator stays 8. Divided by 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25, and denominator stays as 4. Remember, we can't divide fractions, so we stay change flip. So we have 75/8 times 4, we flip the second fraction, over 25. I personally like to reduce across first if I can. So I'm looking at 4 and 8, and I know they can both be divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. Looking on the other side, 75 and 25 can both be divided by 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 75 divided by 25 is 3. So now I have 3/2 times 1/1. Multiplying straight across, 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times 1 is 2. So I get 3/2. I want to change that back to a mixed number, so I divide 3 divided by 2. It goes in 1 time with 1 left over. So here's my missing number, 1 1/2 inches. Example 3, finding the volume, length times width times height. So we have 14 8/10 times 4 5/10. Let's do those two first, and they're in decimals, so decimals are a little bit easier to work with. So we multiply like normal. And then we move our decimal place 2 times. So now I have 66 and 60 hundredths. Then I'm going to multiply by my last number, which is 3 5/10. And I move the decimal 1, 2, 3 times. And that's my answer. 233 and 1/10 meters cubed. So I did the same thing. I just multiplied length times width times height. Just be very careful when you're multiplying. Make sure you don't make any mistakes. Just multiply 2 of the numbers together. When you get your answer, multiply the third number. And now we're finding the missing value again. So we start with our answer, 36 and 63 hundredths, and we divide by one of our numbers. So let's start with 3 7/10. Remember, you can't have a decimal in your divisor, so you move it over one place. That means you have to move it over one place in your dividend, and you bring that straight up, and then you just start dividing. And it goes in, 37 goes into 366 9 times, which is 333. And of course it goes into 333 9 times as well. So we have 9 9/10. And now we divide 9 9/10 by our last number, which is 4 5/10. Again, you can't have a decimal in your divisor, so we move it one place, and we move it one place in our dividend. So 45 goes into 99 2 times. You can add a decimal and a 0, bring your decimal straight up, and 45 goes into 90 2 times again. So our missing width is 2 2/10 centimeters. So when we're working backwards, we do the same thing, we just divide. Here are your practice problems. Number 1, you're finding the volume, length times width times height. And number 2, you're finding the missing value by dividing. Don't forget a word problem or a question, and rate your understanding.